Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Non-Prophets. I'm your host, Jeff D. My co-host today is Denis Loubet.
Hello.
And also today in the studio we have our guest, Ashley Perrien, co-host of the Atheist Experience.
Hey, afternoon, everybody.
Our producer, as usual, is Russell Glasser.
Hi.
And today's opening music was Ring Out Solstice Bells by Jethro Tull. The only frickin' solstice song that I am aware of. If anybody can inform me of others so that next year we can play some different ones around this season, then we'd love to hear about that.
Well, what rhymes with solstice? I mean, that's...
Well, as I had...
It's the solstice with the molstice.
They do have H.P. Lovecraft out there, and he has his own collection of Christmas carols for this year. It's the Solstice CD, but refers to Cthulhu and the Great Old Ones and so on. It's quite entertaining.
Now, didn't H.P. Lovecraft, in fact, die in the 1920s?
I'm not too sure.
Yeah, that is in fact the case.
Okay.
All right. We are live December 6, 2003. Hi, everybody. Boy, we got a bag load of news today, once again. It being every other week we do this show.
Well, they keep doing wacky stuff.
They. And when we say they we mean them. In capital letters and quotation marks. Them.
Yes, those damn giant ants just keep...
Oh, them! If you hear any instances of slurs, defamation, or discrimination against atheists or other non-believers in the U.S. media, such as referring to us as them in great big capital letters and quotation marks, report that to the National Atheist Ombuds by emailing ombuds@atheism.org. Tell them all about it, and they will contact local atheist groups who will get all up in arms.
Woohoo!
You can...
Last-minute technical stuff done by me.
That burst of noise a second ago that our listeners may or may not have picked up.
This show was almost not recorded today.
Well, we got it. Did we miss the beginning? Recording?
A little bit of the music. I can fill that in.
All right. This one.
Okay. Phew. Okay. Now you can collect past episodes of The Non-Prophets and an audio version of our sister show, The Atheist Experience, which airs on public access television only in Austin, Texas, in a convenient CD format. Each CD includes a full month's worth of audio from both the shows in both QuickTime and MP3, plus extra surprises. The CDs are $5 each. Contact atheist@mac.com for info, which happens to be our own Ashley Perrien.
Yes, I'm the one putting them together.
Did you have some questions about the CDs a couple of shows ago?
I don't remember that. I think I might have seen
shipping
emails,
or... I don't know. Turnaround time.
Oh, shipping is included in the price. That's $5.
Oh.
And actually, this is going to be changing in next year.
Yeah.
It's going to be quarterly starting next year. And it's actually going to be on DVD-ROM.
So and is that going to have the video from the TV show?
It's going to have some video. It's still going to be DVD-ROM for computers, not that to put on your playset and play on TV.
I see.
But I'm collecting video from the show and stuff like that. So far, I've got like over 3 hours worth of video to put on there.
Cool.
So
awesome.
I have tons of stuff.
Okay. Let's go straight into the news, and we'll start with Ashley.
Okay. First one I got here, I got this one actually off a website, and I just couldn't resist it for the tagline that was on it. It was something along the lines of Bishop tells politics how to vote, politics tell Bishop where to stick his crucifix. Lawmakers and a former Wisconsin Supreme Court justice Thursday bluntly reminded a Catholic bishop whose stern letter instructed a state senator to adopt church views on political issues that it is the Constitution, not religion, that guides legislative action. I respect and indeed welcome the effort of the bishop and any other responsible clergy to attempt to influence me through advocacy, persuasion, and reason. But there's a difference between advocacy and persuasion versus dictation, especially on issues that affect all religions, not just Catholics. He released a statement Thursday after the bishop of the La Crosse Diocese acknowledged sending letters to 2 state legislators and 1 congressman, warning them to adopt the church's stance on abortion. What was it? Burke said that he had sent the letters to warn of elected officials he declined to name that they risked their spiritual well-being by taking political stances he found into conflict with church teachings. He said Wednesday that if they continued to act in that manner, it was his intention to ask them not to present themselves to receive the sacraments because they would not be Catholics in good standing. So it's nice to see the state coming out taking very positive stand, saying whatever you said is not correct.
So the people who one of the people who received one of these letters wrote back?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
They U.S. Representative David Obey in Wisconsin.
Wow.
But yeah, they're coming out very strong saying...
Democrat?
Yep.
Okay.
Saying the church has its views, and if they want to express them to the state, that's all perfectly well and fine, but don't try and condemn us to hell, because that ain't going to happen.
Well, that would fall under the, you can try to persuade me using reason.
Exactly. But not...
Interesting.
But not dictation.
Wow.
So. Here's a related thing. American voters increasingly split along religious lines. Want to know how Americans will vote next election day? Watch what they do the weekend before. If they attend religious service regularly, they will probably vote Republican by a 2-to-1 margin. If they never go, they likely will vote Democrat by a 2-to-1 margin. This relatively new fault line in American life is a major reason that the country is politically polarized, and the division over religion and politics is likely to continue or even grow in 2004. A new poll by the nonpartisan Pew Research Center for the People and the Press this fall confirmed that the gap remains. Voters who frequently attend religious services tilt 63 to 37% to Bush, and those who never attend lean 62 to 30. All right, so I'm going to do one because you guys are running low.
Take advantage of free speech zone while it's available.
Speaking of morons in office, Americans United criticizes faith czar for comments about fringe religions. Americans United for Separation of Church and State has criticized White House faith czar James Towie for suggesting that fringe religious groups won't get funding under the Bush administration's faith-based initiative. During a November 26th online Ask the White House question and answer session, Towie was asked about the possibility of pagan groups getting tax funding to provide services to the poor and needy. According to the White House transcript of the session, Towie replied, "I haven't run into a pagan faith-based group yet, much less a pagan group that cares for the poor. Once you make it clear to any applicant that public money must go to public purposes and can't be used to promote ideology, the fringe groups lose interest. Helping the poor is tough work, and only those with loving hearts seem drawn to it." In other words, if you're not a Christian, you don't have a loving heart.
Right, and you can't possibly do any acts of good.
What an ass.
Uh-huh.
It never occurred to him, I suppose, that the reason he hasn't run into a pagan faith-based group yet, or even an explanation if there are no pagan faith-based groups. I'm
sure there could be.
There may be, but suppose there's not. Never occurred to him, might be just because there aren't enough people in that particular small religion to have enough members to put together a separate organization to do that kind of charity work. Never occurred to him that it might simply be, you need, if you don't have
resources.
If you don't have the resources because you're a small religion, you might not put together an effort like that. Doesn't mean you don't have a loving heart.
Exactly.
He's equating being in the majority with having a loving heart.
On the flip side, if there are any Wiccan groups out there listening right now, and you do have the resources, let's write to him and see if we can get funding.
And what was that about furthering their
Oh, yes,
religion?
yes, right. Once you make it clear that public money has to go to public purposes and can't be used to promote ideology, the fringe groups lose interest. So wait a minute. I know a bunch of
further their Christian thing.
Bunches of Christian groups have screamed bloody murder that the rules say that they can't promote their ideology until they realize that, hey, every one of our dollars that we save on these social things we do that comes from the government and not out of our pockets is an extra dollar we have free for promoting our ideology.
Yeah.
And now they're interested.
Yeah. Well, they'll just work around that little hitch because they're the majority group, because they're the Christians. That part about not promoting it doesn't really apply to us. So we can go ahead with that. That's not a problem. Well, but the Wiccans better watch their step.
Also, they've realized that part of this whole deal is there's, in effect, no oversight of the way this money is used.
Right.
Yes.
And so,
there's no watchdog.
Even though the rules say you can't use it to promote your ideology, having the money means you got more of your own money to use to promote the ideology with.
Yeah.
And B, even if you do go ahead and break the rules, they ain't going to catch you.
Right.
Or at least they may think that. Now, in Texas, when faith-based groups started doing their corporal punishment stuff and hurting children, they did get caught. So at a certain level, their activities will attract the notice of law enforcement, and law enforcement. They have reverence. So the child abuse, keep it in perspective.
Yes.
Huge, important Pope. Teeny, tiny little child's buttocks. Big Bishop Mengeling. Little, teeny, tiny little child rape. Come on.
I just discovered I was working for Al Capone. Oh, well, I'll just continue doing that.
Those bullets are actually...
What would be the problem?
Those bullets that he shot at people were really very small. Wow. Golly. All right. So, back to the faith-based initiative thing. Through executive orders and aggressive wooing of religious groups and his unflagging commitment to using the bully pulpit, because they call it a pulpit, and we know where President Bush really wants to be.
Right.
Bush has bypassed a reluctant Congress and is fulfilling his inaugural promise to bridge the historic separation of church and state and make his administration the most faith-friendly in memory.
Wow.
The effort...
Not already?
Cue sinister music.
Screw the Constitution.
The effort, carried out by Bush's Office of Faith-Based and Community Initiatives and with branches in seven federal agencies, is starting to bear fruit as it encourages religious groups to compete for public funds and directs millions of dollars in social service grants to ministries and houses of worship, which can retain their religious identity and sidestep federal civil rights laws that bar discrimination in hiring. Faith groups don't, quote, want the church to be the state, and we don't want the state to be the church, but our government should support the good work of religious people who are changing America, Bush said last month at the Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship in Dallas. Slowly but surely, we are changing the culture, he said.
Which is the problem.
Wasn't the claim...
Pretty obvious now.
Wasn't the claim simply that we should make this federal funding available to church groups that perform social services because we need them and they do a good job? Wasn't that the claim, that it would be effective?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Here we have the truth. It's not about that. It is about changing American culture.
To be more accepting of Christianity and religion than they already are.
Which is frickin' scary, because we're already the most,
exactly.
religious Western nation.
Yeah.
Already. But it's about changing the culture. I thought culture was a thing that evolved naturally from the interaction of the people in the country, right?
But they don't believe in evolution. They believe in enforcement.
Exactly. Dictation.
You will have the culture we want you to have.
Wow.
Dictation, not persuasion and reason.
No.
As he campaigns for re-election, Bush hopes to energize his important base of evangelical Christian voters by citing the faith-based initiative as a domestic policy accomplishment, and to convince African Americans, who only gave him 8% of the vote in 2000, that his administration's outreach to inner-city churches proves he is a compassionate conservative, said a White House official who asked not to be named. So this is a plot.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're not conspiracy theorizing now. Here's a guy in the White House saying, this is what it is about. Right? Now, Bush himself says in public,
we're changing.
It's about changing the culture.
Yeah.
But it's also about getting votes. Outside of Washington, the White House is reaching... Huh? What?
Never mind.
Yeah. Outside of Washington, the White House is reaching out extensively to grassroots groups. Last month, nearly 2,000 church and community leaders were invited to meet in Memphis for the 8th in a series of day-long regional conferences the faith-based office has hosted to explain the initiative, the rules for partnering with government, and the how-to of applying for federal contracts. Now, and this has always completely annoyed me. Not only do they make the funds available, do they change the rules so faith-based groups can get the funds and not have to follow federal anti-discrimination laws. That not only that, but then the government spends money to set up conferences to teach people from these churches how to come get the money.
Yeah.
And what churches are they?
Probably not the Wiccan ones.
Probably not.
Well, not well. See, Towie, what is his first name? James Towie? Yeah, Jim Towie. Jim Towie, the faith guru,
Toe Jim.
said that he's never met a pagan faith-based group.
So I guess they don't. Maybe, yeah.
Towie spoke at the conference, and representatives from federal grant-making agencies manned booths to answer questions. A 9th conference will be held in Tampa next month.
Maybe some atheist organizations should attend.
Yes, we are the Atheist Community of Austin educational group.
Yeah.
Can we not get federal funding to open up some kind of educational program? Help people better themselves.
Atheist Community of Austin, here in Austin, Texas, right? That most of us are members of, did send a letter to the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives asking exactly that.
Okay.
Never heard back.
Never heard back.
These come get free money conferences are partisan in the worst sense of the word, said Barry Lynn, executive director of Americans United for Separation of Church and State, an advocacy group. The conferences are designed by political strategists in the White House, Lynn said, and so did the guy that just told us this is all a vote-getting thing. To get the president 3 to 4% more of the African-American vote next year. Melissa Rogers, a lawyer and scholar on the Constitution and religious liberties, said the Bush administration has made very significant policy changes for...
The creature itself was.
The penis was a fifth of that.
A fifth, so that...
A fifth of
Right.
2/10.
It's tiny fraction.
Half,
So, what do you
1/20th.
But that was a soft body part.
Yes.
So just imagine how long if it was erect.
No.
Okay, does that count?
So 425 million years old, and this is older than the last thing that they found with a penis, which was a 400 million year old ancestor of the daddy longlegs.
Yeah. Okay.
Of course, we all know that the world is only 6,000 years old, so
Right.
This is all a lie.
I know what they say about spiders.
Lying scientists.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Okay, what
I got
story
more of
follows this?
That I can't help you with.
What kind of segue can we put in?
Yeah, let's see.
Absolutely not.
It was the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a prehistoric crustacean with a giant penis. Children fear Santa's not coming to town after teacher casts doubt. Christmas at the Jolly household already hung by a thread. Sandra Jolly, recently divorced, has been working 2 jobs to buy some of the items for her 6-year-old's Christmas list this year. Mommy's on a budget, she warned her son, but he still had high hopes that Santa would come to the rescue. That innocent anticipation was gone by the time she picked DJ up from the A.C. Perry Elementary School in Miramar on Monday. He had this sad lost puppy dog look on his face, this unhappy empty look, she recalls. He said his teacher informed the entire class that Santa is make-believe. DJ's teacher, Janita Kotner, was reading a story about the tooth fairy on Monday, and the class started discussing what was real and what was not, said district spokesman Joe Donzelli.
Perfectly reasonable thing to do.
The subject of Santa then came up, and the teacher started questioning parts of the story. How could a fat, jolly man fit down a chimney? How could reindeer fly around the world in one night? And told the children that wasn't possible. It's all been blown out of proportion, Codner said Tuesday. I'm sorry parents think I meant it that way. We were just having a discussion. I don't know where all this hurt came from. She said none of the children acted upset or sad during the class, but Jolly and others begged to differ. How do you destroy a 6-year-old like that? demanded Pam Sturt.
Well, apparently by telling them that there's no Santa.
Yeah, this is exactly why you don't tell kids there's a Santa Claus.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
They have a fix at the end. Hold on to the end of the story.
Okay.
Demanded Pam Sturt, whose son Bradley is in DJ's class, and said the teacher also made it clear the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny are not real. Kids don't believe in enough things already. Whoa!
We have to give them more stuff to believe?
Our goal in life is to get kids to believe enough lies?
Yeah,
That's the objective?
The kid with the most lies wins.
And unfortunately, they didn't continue this saying Santa's not real. The Easter Bunny's not real.
Let me finish.
God is not real?
Go with
They never went there. They never went there.
I'm giving away the ending. I'm
Kids are not believing enough stuff already. The other day I reached out and, plucked a girl's nose off her face. She didn't believe it. The school's principal had a real stern conversation with the teacher, Donzelli said, but there will be no written reprimand because she violated no policy.
Right.
She told them the truth.
Right.
She gave them actual science.
We have no Santa Claus, Donzelli said. We would think the teachers would use better judgment.
Although chances are they do now have a clause in there somewhere.
To make up for being naughty, school officials are trying to be nice today by bringing in a Santa to Perry Elementary to restore some of the children's lost beliefs.
That is sick.
These poor kids are going to be so frickin' confused.
My God,
there is a Santa. There isn't a Santa. There is a Santa. 5 years later, there isn't a Santa.
It pisses me off because I'm a mother myself, and I never lied to my kids about that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Virginia
sorry.
Glasser.
I'm sorry. But,
they might be wondering who this mysterious voice is.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, I've always been very open about, there not being any tooth fairy or no Santa. And I know some atheists do struggle with whether or not they want to tell their kids that there's a Santa or not. And I've asked my kids, now that they're older, if they felt left out or, if it affected them in some negative way because they didn't have that fairy tale. And they're like, absolutely not. It's stupid. So, for you parents out there that are contemplating, this article's really important, think about the long term.
Yeah. It's a cultural thing just like many others. I mean, playing along with the idea that there is a Santa is one thing, but actually believing that there is a guy that flies around the world with his reindeer and delivers presents is a whole different thing from but that's even playing along with the cultural idea of
I agree.
Halloween.
But that's not even the issue, right? Playing along with the idea is one thing, but having let the cat out of the bag, and if there isn't one, then making an effort to bring in a faux Santa Claus.
Try and stuff the fake cat back into the fake bag.
Stuff the fake cat back into the face bag, exactly.
Hopefully they choose Billy Bob Thornton, the bad Santa. Still haven't seen that, but I want to.
Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Let's go see that.
All right.
I think that sounds like the perfect film. Russell, do you have a news story, please?
Yeah. More stuff relating to school.
Oh, good.
Although at a higher level.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh. Here we go. Justices hear state religious dispute. Supreme Court justices grilled Washington State's top lawyer for 30 minutes Tuesday on the constitutionality of the state's decision to deny a scholarship to a college student who decided to pursue a theology major. The justices focused on the far-reaching consequences for a variety of state government funding of faith-oriented programs if they rule against Washington State. School voucher supporters say that the case could be a breakthrough for them to include religious schools in taxpayer-supported education choice programs in 36 states, such as Washington, that have tough legal barriers to spending public money on religious education. What you are arguing here could have a major impact on voucher programs, Justice Sandra Day O'Connor said to lawyer J. Allen Sekulow, who argued that religious programs should not be excluded from public funding. Now, we know J. Sekulow from past cases. He's like
the man with the most ironic name in the universe.
Yes. He's the head of, Pat Robertson's goon squad of lawyers, the ACLJ.
Mm-hmm. Because they're so creative in coming up with a name for the organization.
Right. The court's chamber was packed for the hour-long arguments. In the audience was Joshua Davey, the Spokane resident, who sued the state after it denied him a $1,125 promised scholarship in 1999 to Northwest College because he declared a study course equivalent to a theology degree. He graduated from Northwest with a double major in pastoral ministries and business management and is now in his first year at Harvard Law School.
What?
Well, it's been a long time since he tried to get that scholarship. He decided to switch to law because Jay Sekulow presented him with such a great example. So we can only assume that he's going to now dedicate his life to, like Sekulow, helping to destroy the division between church and state.
Okay.
Great.
There's really only one way to talk about these religious issues. You know, I mean, I'm going to go back on what I said.
A series of four-letter words.
I'm going to go back on what I said earlier about the politicians that wrote back to the Catholic Church saying "buzz off." This is going to keep coming up until religion is recognized as a big steaming bowl of doo-doo. You know, because until people understand that, they're going to keep coming back saying, "You're being mean to me for not treating me special or because of my beliefs."
Your beliefs are stupid.
There you go. There you go. There is a message for the Democratic Party.
Vote Democrat. Your beliefs are stupid.
You know, when they corner these Democratic presidential candidates and they hem and haw and they weasel about, well, yeah, I'm religious, but I won't talk about it in office because I believe it's a private matter. No, they should say, no, I won't talk about religion because it's stupid.
It's a big steaming pile of doo-doo.
Well, gosh darn it, we got to start somewhere. People don't become willing to say things like that. Then always the problem is going to be, well, the Democrats can't win because they're not religious enough. Mm-hmm. You can't solve that problem by becoming more religious. Then that's the problem.
Yeah. By the way, I first became aware of this story last week because I happened to be flipping channels and saw Pat Robertson talking to Jay Sekulow on the air, I guess on Trinity or something like that.
I hate it when they like each other.
Sekulow was saying something like, yeah, Sandra Day O'Connor was asking me, like, you know, if this is just a way to weasel into getting the state school vouchers to fund religious schools. I didn't really answer yes, but I kind of hedged really well. He was really proud of himself.
Wow. Now, wasn't there a big defeat for voucher programs in Colorado just this past week? I saw a whole bunch of articles about it on the Infidels Newswire, but I had too much material already, so I left them. As I understand it, there is a big defeat for vouchers in California. Colorado, excuse me. Colorado. Yeah.
Well, apparently the justices have been asking really good questions, and most of them think that this... it sounded like 6 of them weren't really convinced that this is a good idea.
It's pretty transparent.
Well, explain it to me.
What?
Why should the state not award its scholarship to wherever the student wants to go? Whatever the student wants to learn?
Can you, I mean, first of all, as I've heard it, Washington State has much stricter restrictions on what the state can do with their money than does the Constitution of the United States in general. They're much stickier.
But we're not talking about a state constitution issue anymore. We're talking about the federal constitution.
Because the money was being granted by the state.
Yeah.
This is a scholarship from the state.
Yeah.
And when they found out that he's going to a theology school instead of a real school, they said, "Sorry, we can't. We can't support you. We can't give our state money to you because it's just going to go toward promoting religion."
So this Supreme Court case is about the constitutionality of the Massachusetts? Washington State. It's about whether Washington State's own constitution is constitutional.
Correct.
I get it. Well.
But, what's interesting about this case is that...
Well, it's a states' rights issue, right? Why isn't Jay Sekulow saying, "But, Your Honors, if the state of Washington does not want to make funds available for religious instruction, that's a states' rights issue, and they should not have to do that if they don't want to." Isn't that their way they scream on every other issue? Oh, it's states' rights. States' rights.
No, but
we can have our Ten Commandments monument. States' rights.
Right. Now, what's interesting about the case is that if they win, then essentially that means that the Supreme Court has now said, yeah, if you're going to give money for anyone to get educated, then you have to give the money no matter what kind of classes the school is teaching. I mean,
right.
If they want to go to, that Patriot University like Kent Hovind got his diploma degree from,
right.
Then you states have to honor that.
Well, interesting.
Scholarship to Patriot University.
Well, speaking of college stories here, there is another one that I got, actually.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
I thought you were out.
And this one actually is from out of the country, which makes it all that more depressing.
Oh, well, I have one about state constitutions.
Well, it's Ashley's turn.
Okay.
You can go after Hannah.
This one's actually in Norway. Unfortunately, this is a fairly common story for being the U.S., but the trouble is it's now in Norway also.
Uh-oh.
Medical student John David Johannesson and the leader of the Christian Medical Student Circle have petitioned...
Johansson. I bet anything is
Johansson, yeah. Have petitioned the medical facility at the University of Oslo for lectures that not only argue the cause of evolution, but also the evidence against. The theory of evolution doesn't stand up and does not present enough convincing facts. It is one theory among many.
Yeah, it's only a theory. Yeah.
But in education, it is discussed as if it is accepted by everyone.
No, moron.
It is accepted by everyone who knows what they're talking about.
You can find somebody who doesn't accept anything you'd care to teach anywhere. The fact that there are some morons that don't believe it is irrelevant. Irrelevant.
Yeah. And he goes on to say that, yes, well, us poor creationists are just disparaged and we're talked of badly. And I like this. Dean Per Brodal said it was regrettable that if any university staff were disparaging creationists, but that there were no reason to complain about a lack of relevant evidence.
Really?
Brodal also felt that...
we don't have to have the evidence. We have the Bible.
Brodal also felt that evolution had a rather minor spot in medical education. So, as it should be so, because it is nothing.
Yeah, I'm not descended from a monkey.
So, yes, unfortunately, this kind of thing now
The monkeys do not wear the lederhosen. Only God make the lederhosen.
Is at least partly overseas.
They got the wrong country?
Yeah, they got the wrong country.
Yeah, from Sweden.
That's the special Swedish leader.
You're so awful.
Yeah, we wear the special underwear. We're the Swedish Mormons.
Sweden is where they wear bikinis.
That's right, the Swedish bikini team.
Yeah, in Sweden. Wow. My goodness.
So,
Russell, you have something to say?
This is something I pulled off of the Nebraska Atheists website, nebraskaatheist.org.
Uh-huh.
Atheists are discriminated against.
Yay! Woohoo! Shout out to all you Nebraskan atheists.
Go Nebraskans. Atheists are discriminated against in 7 state constitutions.
Yeah.
Yes, atheists are discriminated against in 7 state constitutions. When I first heard about this, I was shocked. I found it very hard to believe. I know that atheists are not very well liked in this country, but discrimination? Well, I did some research and found out the offensive truth. Below, I have provided links to each of the state's constitutions that discriminate against atheists. Maryland's Declaration of Rights says, nor shall any person otherwise competent be deemed incompetent as a witness or juror on account of his religious belief, provided he believes in the existence of God, and that under his dispensation such a person will be held morally accountable for his acts and be rewarded or punished therefore in either this world or the world to come. Massachusetts Constitution says...
Wait, whoa. If you have a soul... if you believe in God, then you're morally accountable for your actions.
No, I think you have to believe in the existence of God and that you will be punished or rewarded.
Okay. If you believe in God and that you will be punished or rewarded, then you are responsible for your actions? That's what that seemed to be saying.
No person shall be deemed incompetent as a witness, juror, or juror on account of his religious belief, as long as he believes those things.
Yes.
So we are
the sentence goes on.
No.
The sentence goes on.
The subject, the verb in the sentence was, no person shall be
Yes, I know. Go on to the rest of the thing. There's more after that.
The rest of it is about what the person believes.
Oh. Okay.
Massachusetts state constitution says, any and every denomination of Christians shall be equally under the protection of the law.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty blatant.
North Carolina says, disqualifications of office. First, any person who shall deny the being of Almighty God.
Mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania, no person who acknowledges the being of a God and a future state of rewards and punishments shall, on account of his religious sentiments, be disqualified to hold any office or place of trust.
Okay.
South Carolina, no person shall be eligible to the office of governor who denies the existence of the supreme being. Tennessee, no person who denies the being of God or a future state of rewards and punishments shall hold any office in the civil department of this state. And Texas,
yeah.
No religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office, blah, 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 provided he acknowledged the existence of a supreme being.
Yeah.
Though that one, I happen to know, has been declared unconstitutional.
Okay.
However, the upshot of that is it is no longer enforced in Texas, supposedly, but they haven't gone so far as to strike it from the state constitution, which is what they ought to do.
Yep.
And that something similar might be going on in those other states. This guy doesn't report on that.
Yeah, I kind of have a feeling that these are things that are not enforced, not pushed very hard.
Yeah.
And if they ever
it's like, no llamas on the streets of
Exactly.
But after reading all that,
but it's something that a religious group could grab onto if they became a significant power in those states.
Sure.
True.
And it's like, you start thinking, gee, do they say anything about separate drinking fountains? I mean,
All right. Michael Newdow has been allowed to represent himself in front of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said on December 1st that the California atheist who wants the words "under God" stripped from the Pledge of Allegiance can argue before the court next year. The court granted an exception to Michael Newdow, a doctor and lawyer who is not a member of the Supreme Court, bar, but wanted to argue the case himself. Newdow has been writing and filing his own legal arguments so far, but he hasn't had his law license for the 3 years required to qualify for the Supreme Court bar. The court did not comment in granting his request. Justice Antonin Scalia who has recused himself from the case, did not participate in the decision. Scalia had been criticized for bringing up the Pledge of Allegiance case during a speech at a religious event early this year. Criticized, by the way, by Michael Newdow, who wrote a letter to the Supreme Court saying Scalia ought to recuse himself.
Yep.
And then he did. The justices...
Thumbs up on that one, at least.
Yeah. The justices are reviewing an appeals court decision that found that the Pledge of Allegiance in public schools is unconstitutional because of the reference to God. Arguments have not yet been scheduled. It is a tribute to our system of law that any individual with sufficient desire can, by himself, ensure that our government remains true to its constitutional ideals, Newdow told the court in a filing. Also today, the court turned down a request by the group Americans United for the Separation of Church and State to participate in the argument. The case is Elk Grove Unified School District versus Newdow, 02-1624, for those of you who care about such things. Woo! Wow.
All right.
Are we out of news?
No.
Russell, then it's your turn.
I've got... I don't know.
Or does anybody have comments on the whole Newdow thing?
Not really.
It's kind of surprising just hear that.
Go Newdow.
I work with people in Elk Grove every day. I just, all of a sudden, that clicked in my head.
Elk Grove, California?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. The company I work for, we do phone support, and so constantly we have another center in Elk Grove.
Last week was Bible Week in Texas. Or
right.
Actually in Seguin, Texas.
So that's the day when everybody brings their Bibles out to the curb in a big trash bag, right?
Of course.
We can only hope.
Actually, Seguin Mayor Mark Stotzenberger proclaimed November 23rd through 30th as Bible Week in the city of Seguin.
Yeah.
We always hear about separation of church and state and separation of church and government, but here in Seguin, we will start our council meeting with a prayer, Stotzenberger said. We hold the National Day of Prayer in Central Park, and Bible Week is just another way to show that this community is very mindful of religion and is a God-fearing people. This is just another way of showing our devoutness here in Seguin. Observed annually during Thanksgiving Week, National Bible Week began in 1941 and encourages daily study of the Bible. It is sponsored by the National Bible Association, which is not connected to any specific religious denomination.
No wonder most Christians haven't a clue what's in the Bible. They only have 1 week a year where they're encouraged to study it every day.
I thought this was the only week when they were allowed to study the Bible.
Right.
Only that were the case. Yeah, I still think that we
should do that. We should go around with a big trash bag and say, Bible drive. Bring out, we're collecting your old Bibles. Here.
Yeah.
Do you have any Bibles
to donate?
Yeah, get them out of people's houses.
I still think that Atheist Community of Austin, we should have...
And then landfill.
We should go with Bible Week and have a big thing on the Capitol and say, here are the verses that we would say. Here is our list of Bible readings for the week. Let's read Joshua, shall we?
Yeah, we
have
have here
children's heads open on rocks.
Exactly.
Also not suffer a witch to live. Oh, is that hate speech? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have a list of verses that we're supposed to be reading every day of the week. And, none of them about bears slaughtering a bunch of kids.
Did you look those up?
No, I didn't.
You got a Bible?
Come
on, you gotta have one of those around.
This is an atheist house. Come on, where's your Bible?
Computer. Yeah. Sorry.
All right.
Okay, which one?
Are
Sorry.
You're all left with stories because you kept doing
because I was busy in
stuff.
the beginning, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Let there be lawyers.
And there were lawyers. And it sucked.
Television evangelist Jerry Falwell, preaching to a nearly full house Sunday morning at Anchorage Baptist Temple, outlined plans for a new law school at Liberty University to train attorneys who believe in the Bible and the American Constitution. Right.
Hey, by the way, I'm sorry to interrupt this, but thinking of our technical problems today, have you asked whether anybody out there is recording?
Yeah, somebody will send it to me, and also I got it recording after, half the show.
Well, yeah, but somebody out there is already recording it?
Well, somebody started recording it about 20 minutes into the show.
So,
So,
a lot of it is going to be collected. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Do we have a name on that listener?
Yes, Quaxer.
Quaxer. Thank you, Quaxer.
I hope we pronounced that name right. Thank you very much, Quaxer, for recording this show.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And you were saying?
Falwell, founder and chancellor of the university in Lynchburg, Virginia, said judges unfaithful to the constitutional and Christian values are working to unravel the country's moral fabric.
Judges who will not put the claims in an ancient book of fables above the Constitution are following the Constitution and not letting the fables get in the way.
And destroying the country.
Yeah.
Judges have banned the posting of the Ten Commandments at courthouses. Yeah, wine. The Liberty University School of Law will begin classes next fall, said Falwell, who came to Anchorage last week to see his men's college... This is from the Alaska newspaper, so they give a damn about what sports team he supports over there.
Falwell is from Alaska? Or his college was in Alaska?
I guess so.
Falwell went to college in Alaska.
I'm training junkyard dog lawyers who believe in God and the Bible and the Constitution and are not afraid of the ACLU, Falwell said during his sermon Sunday. Afterward, Falwell signed Bibles, tweaked the glowing faces of small children. Boy, that's going to scar. And chatted with congregants in the lobby outside the enormous multimedia sanctuary of Anchorage Baptist Temple. Enormous multimedia sanctuary? What do you have to do to qualify for that description?
I don't know.
You have to sucker poor people out of their last cent.
According to Liberty... There's some simpering stuff about Falwell here. According to Liberty's website, it's a wonder Falwell was ever called to preach. Falwell had a grandfather who was a self-avowed atheist and a father who was an agnostic, hated preachers, and ran an illegal bootleg whiskey operation during the Prohibition era.
Woohoo!
All right.
Larry Falwell.
Larry Flintwell.
I guess Falwell didn't respect his parents.
You know, it's the wayward children of atheists who seem to be the most, troublesome. I've noticed this. I think
the word you're searching for is assholes.
Well, okay. You know what I mean? It's like Madeline O'Hare's kid. It seems like when an atheist kid goes wrong, they go really, really wrong, and they get really deep into religion. So let that be a warning to you.
Yes. Keep tight reins on your kids. Don't let them think.
Yeah, those atheists made the mistake of telling their children that Santa Claus existed.
Or maybe they said he didn't. Maybe little Jerry was deprived all his life of all those false things that it's so important for children to believe. And so when he grew up, he latched on to one really big, fat, stinking false thing. And he was believing that.
Poor little Jerry.
Poor Jerry. He just wants to be loved.
That must be it.
Go ahead.
And finally, one last school story.
Yeah.
Stacy Ford's 5th grade class at Turner Elementary School in Palm Bay, Florida, studied the historical aspects of the Pilgrim and American Indians at the first Thanksgiving, compared America's traditions of giving thanks with a similar holiday in the Chinese culture, and even made turkeys out of feathers in small clay pots. But, in keeping with the U.S. Supreme Court's separation of church and state, this first-year teacher hasn't told her students to whom the pilgrims gave thanks in the 17th century. There's nothing religious, Ford said the day before the national holiday. I have children who do not believe in that. Instead of Thanksgiving traditions, I ask them all what they're thankful for, because everybody should be thankful for something. Now, this sounds nice, but...
Thankful to who?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you don't tell kids that the origins of the holiday are religious, aren't you lying to them in that way?
I mean, there's nothing religious about an historical fact.
Right.
Yeah.
The Pilgrims were Christians.
Right. They gave thanks to God. Sure.
Precisely. I mean, it just seems to me that Bowdlerizing the holiday like this.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, you know, I agree with this teacher that she should not promote religion, but
Right.
it would be sort of like, crap.
Well, they're misrepresenting the separation of church and state in that thing.
Right. It's not a separation of church and state.
It has nothing to do with a separation of church and state.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It'd be like teaching your kids that on Easter the ancient Israelites went around hunting for colored eggs.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was searching for.
Well, no, they had a religion. You know?
Well, you know, it's funny. I caught some. Well, you know, I'm the parent of a toddler, and so I caught some of Sesame Street Christmas special this morning, and I was curious about whether they'd actually get to discussing the Jesus thing. And in fact, they did, sort of. They had this scene in a manger with Bert and some other woman. Playing Joseph and Mary, and
Ernie with his squeaky rubber ducky over the baby Jesus,
and a little baby monster actually lying in a crib.
A little baby monster.
Oh, perfect.
Well, it was like a play sort of,
Right,
where they
right.
were pretending to do it.
But that's a very nice analogy. I like that.
And then the three wise monsters came
little
walking
baby
in
monster.
with their gifts of gold, frankincense, and cookies. And then, you know, I noticed that they were sort of hedging around saying who the baby actually is in the crib, and they get there and they said, and this was Jesus, and he grew up and became a well-respected teacher for a lot of people, and that's it.
Cool. Okay.
That was fun.
They were very, very careful about it.
Huh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we're about out of time.
Are we? What a pity.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be back in 2 weeks, folks. Thanks go out to everybody listening to us live. Lucky you, because you got to hear the entire show. We had some technical problems. We're gonna
listening to the recording.
Except that the recording is going to be incomplete because there's the section at the beginning that's just going to be gone forever into the mist of time. Sadly, that's the way it goes. Thank you, everybody who was in the chat room. We will leave you with Jethro Tull doing Ring Out Solstice Bells. I guess this is the solstice season, but the actual solstice is on what, the 19th?
21st.
21st. 19th will be our next show.
Next show will be the next.
We will see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.